Hello. Tell my followers I'm live. Let them know that we are starting. We're coming in hot, and we're being gay. We're being queer. 110% of the time. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hello. I'm going to stop waving because it's just going to be overwhelming, and I'm already sweating. Okay. We're just going to get started. We're just going to go for it. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny from Danny Plans It, if you didn't know, because you literally had to click my name to be here. And welcome to Out and Proud. I'm going to read from this. I wrote a lot of things down, guys, because I wanted to be really thoughtful with this conversation. I also have my husband here who's like kind of PCing me. I don't know, or not PCing me. MC, I don't know what he's doing. He's just here. He's supporting me, okay? So he is here. He might come on and share. He might not. But for now, he's just there. But so I'm going to read a little bit, and I'm sorry, but it's just because I really wanted to be, like I said, I wanted to be thoughtful about this, and I didn't want to really be off the cuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit. So welcome to Out and Proud. This is my series where on Instagram where we discuss queer topics and issues. We share queer stories, and we uplift the LGBTQIA community in the most fierce, flawless, and fabulous way. Today, we are talking about religion as it pertains to queer people and religious trauma, or as it pertains to their religious experience. And as you can see, I'm by myself today. It's just me and my husband. So I wanted to acknowledge that this is one story you're going to hear today. This is one person's experience. I'm not here to speak for an entire community of people. There are 1,000 more experiences and stories to be told. I just felt very, I don't know if inspired's the word, but I felt like this conversation was necessary considering what's going on in the planet community. No, this is not about products. No, this is not about companies. But after seeing Cindy's video talking about how she felt, I felt inspired. So if you haven't seen her video, I think you should go. She did a lot of research as a queer ally and a queer mom, a mom of queer children. And that was just really inspirational to me that someone would go out like very well in depth to that kind of discovery. And so yes, thank you. I felt called to talk about it. So today we're going to talk about just that. And I want to start with some acknowledgments before we start the talk. So we're talking, but that's what we're doing. So first, what is this talk? Here's what it's not. This is not an opportunity for me or for anybody to bash religion. Thank you, babe. I needed that. Whew, guys. Okay. This is not that. I'm not here to talk down about anyone's beliefs or anyone's systems like that they have inside their spirit, what gets them, wakes them up in the morning and how they live their life. But this is my experience. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to talk about how I felt and how I feel, just to kind of provide, a perspective, an opinion. Secondly, I do want to say this also isn't a chance to evangelize in the comments. I hope that we can be thoughtful and think, but this isn't, we're not trying to turn anyone onto anything here. We're just here to think and be thoughtful and to talk about it. And lastly, this comes from J-Bay, which I just absolutely loved. So I felt like I really want to talk about it, and that's why I'm going to read it here. But I want to acknowledge that reconciling your spirituality and your identity or your queerness is, after coming out, is a journey in its own, and it belongs to each individual person, and it is their own experience that we have no control over. Each person is going to go through this experience differently and come out of it differently. I'm just gonna say it, there are tons of queer people who go through this experience and then come back to religion. There are people who choose to leave or choose to create some new experience or connection with religion. And so just because you're hearing my story today that isn't the offer to say, well, Danny Planted said, because like that's just not how it is. That's just not what it is. So as you're hearing my story today, I appreciate you for listening. Again, if you have questions, question box is fine. If you want to say it in the story, I would love to hear more people and just their thoughts. But that's where we're at. What is this talk? This is the last thing I have to say. This is one queer story and experience, a memoir, if you will. It's my personal reflection and acknowledgement of my current relationship with religion. I don't know if that's the case. In response to a current situation that's happening in the planner community where we're talking about this. I just really felt like I wanted to have this discussion. So here we are. And here we go. Are you ready? Yes, Franklin, I'm going to save this, definitely. So don't freak out. You will have the chance to rewatch this if you want. I might take me a couple days to get it up because I want to be thoughtful about this. I don't know. But it will be saved. It will be available. Okay. In the beginning, and I felt very proud of that. I wrote it and I highlighted it in the beginning. Just a nod to my previous Bible reading experience. So you're welcome. I'm sorry. I thought that was really funny. I'm really proud of that joke. Okay. So what is my religious experience? Whenever I think about religion, one, I'm going to say I think about Christianity because that is the religion I was brought up with. So this conversation also is focusing on my relationship with Christianity and not any other religion. And, Christianity is also a big, huge umbrella where there are lots of different, what's the word? Sex? Branches? I don't know. There are lots of different ways to be a Christian. And this is, again, just mine. I honestly don't even know if I know all of the, branches I've been in. I know at one point we were going to a Baptist church. We used to go to some special services at a Methodist church, I believe. We did thank you, sex. That's what I thought. Non-denominational. We did that for a really long time. I think that was probably where I felt closest to God in my relationship. And let's get started. Okay. So when I think about religion, I go all the way back, to childhood. I literally, in my earliest memory, I remember wearing a really nice outfit, going to church, going to, kids area, whatever the kids thing is for Sunday school, and then going to the kids group, and then afterwards going home, and it was Easter, so we were all wearing these nice clothes, and we went and did the egg hunt and all that stuff. So from a very young age, I have experiences going to church, enjoying myself, learning all of the stories that Sunday school had to offer. We learned about Moses, we learned about Abraham, and we learned about, all of the things. Honestly, now it's been so long, I couldn't tell you. But a big part of my family, so I didn't have the best home life. And for me, a lot of my religion was with my cousins. So I'm going to call them the cousins, the fam. So when I refer to them, that's who I'm talking about specifically. And I went with them a lot. And so it was kind of my escape from this reality that I had of having this, again, trigger warning. We're talking about religious trauma. We're talking about queer trauma and queer experience. We're talking about childhood trauma and poverty. So if that's not your speed, please feel free to bounce out. But religion was an escape for me because I would escape my home and I would go with my family to church, my other family to church. And a big thing we did was, vacation Bible school, church camp. I think that's it. Those are the two big things. In the summer, these big experiences where I would get away for a really long time. And I had a lot of positive experiences. I really loved going to church camp. I'm a good boy. I like to follow the rules. And so I remember going to church camp and she challenged us to memorize the Bible verse. And so I did. And because I memorized the Bible verse, you ready for this? Romans 12 verse 2, do not be conformed of this world, but Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because that is good and respectable and perfect will of God. Romans 12, verse 2. I learned that in like kindergarten, and I've never forgotten it. I remember reciting it back to my church, my Sunday school. She wasn't Sunday school because it was church camp, but my teacher, she gave me a little pass, and I got like a free like snack thing. It was amazing. So I have all these really positive experiences where I felt uplifted as a child because of my experience with religion. As we got a little bit older, we went to a bunch of different church camps. One that specifically like blings out to me was like, it's called YFN, Youth for the Nations. That's a whole other topic for another day, but I do remember going. It's here in Dallas. Even though I lived in like the Austin area, I digress. But I remember having these like huge religious experiences, going to church, singing songs, raising my hands up in praise and worship, going to the front to be saved and to be, healed, or for little for things that I felt as a kid that I needed to go out for. And I remember coming back and having family members hug me, saying they were so proud of me for the things that I was doing and how I was growing closer to God. And then as I got even older, I started going to youth group in my hometown finally. And I would go with my friends, as my friends got cars. We would go on Wednesdays, we'd go on Sundays and do the things. I think I volunteered for a couple of things. And then that's where coming out comes in. Because all before this is little Danny, child who just loves to be loved. He's a good boy. Guys. Oh my God, I'm not going to cry. I might cry a little bit. No, it's okay. Thank you. I love you. I love my husband. I'm just I'm in a feel. Okay. But that's when I figured out that I was gay. Funny story, because I need to change the mood a little bit while I calm down. I do remember... Stop. I do remember the day I finally decided I was gay. So here's some tea. I was at ATF. I think it's called Acquire the Fire. It was in it was in San Antonio, I think. And my church group was hanging out outside of the event, and we met another church group, and we started hanging out with them. We were playing games. Like, we played, pterodactyl, which is this game where you, literally cover your teeth, and then you try to make obnoxious noises to make the next person, laugh. And when they laugh, they're out or whatever. And I remember, playing that game with this whole group, and it got down to, a core group of, 7 or 8 people. It started out, 20. Then it gets to be, 7 or 8. And then afterwards, we're all talking, and me and my 2 friends exchanged numbers with a couple of people from that group, one of which was a boy. I started messaging this boy, and this boy would compliment my eyes. He told me I had really pretty brown eyes, and I was like, that's so weird. Why would this straight guy tell me I have pretty eyes? Is that, and I would text my friends and be is that normal for a guy to say that? And they're like, no, that's not normal. And then that, feeling that I got whenever I was being, flirted with, I guess, over text, was literally how I realized that I was gay. Because I had messaged girls and girlfriends, and this is funny because I'm totally planning a coming out story. So this is kind of my coming out story, but it's kind of important. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I am gay. I'm a queer person. I really wanted the affection from this boy. And that story could go on for a long time, but religion helped me figure out I was queer, which is kind of crazy considering. And that's where things kind of take a darker turn for me. Coming out to my family, I didn't do it for a while. I came out to a lot of my friends first. How old was I? I think I was 16, about to turn, or I had just turned 17. So I was fairly old at this point. And at this point, I'm also still going to church events, so we're just now about a decade away from stuff like this happening to me, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, so I think I was 16 when that happened, and then I was 17 when I officially like came out to like the world. So I came out to my friends, and then I came out. It's kind of funny. Like, I remember a story where my mom, she grabbed my phone, and I was messaging that boy, and like, we were sending pictures, not like in a dirty way. Like, literally, we were just like, selfies. But my mom was like, who is this boy? And why are you sending him, pictures? And I was like, literally screaming because I wasn't ready to come out yet. So I like grabbed the phone and I ran off, and I was like, leave me alone. Respect my privacy. I'm a teen. And that was so funny. Which is also funny because my mom acted when I came out like she didn't know what was going on. I'm like, girl, you caught me flirting with a boy on the phone. What were you thinking? But yeah, so that happened. And then I got a boyfriend, which was online, and it was the craziest story ever. But I decided, because I'm a teen, you can't tell me what to do. But I literally changed my relationship status on Facebook that I was in a relationship with a boy. And that's how I came out of the closet, y'all. That's how I told everyone. So all of a sudden, my mother is getting bombarded with messages, and I've never heard her name yell my name so loud, and I didn't know what to do. I went to the other room, and she was like, what is this? What is this? And like screaming at me, telling me that everyone's asking questions. She doesn't know what to say, so I need to explain to her what was going on. And so I told her, I said, I have a boyfriend. I'm gay. Like, that's kind of it. I honestly don't remember a lot of that conversation outside of that because of how emotional it was. But what I will never forget is that night, getting messages from my grandma, getting messages from my family. If you're watching this, like, I love y'all, but this is my story and I'm going to tell it. My message from my grandma, messages from my uncle, and they sent me some Bible verses and told me that they were praying for me and they were hoping that this wasn't true, and that God says that you're gonna go to hell, that you're gonna burn alive. Again, like religious trauma, like that's what they said. They told me that's what the verses said. So that's when things changed for me in religion, because this thing that I had respected for so long, that made me feel safe, no longer made me feel safe. And I wanted to tell you guys this just because that is the story for a lot of people, It's just like, it's hard. Because you can spend so much of your life, feeling safe, and then all of a sudden, you're not anymore. And that's also a big, huge, complicated story. Why am I laughing right now? It's the coping mechanism. It's the coping mechanism. But at that point, that's where we get to, I start having a lot of family issues. Like, I basically went to college, thank the Lord, and, okay, well, actually, no, that's not where the story ends, so let's stop there. After I came out and had those messages from my grandma and my uncle, my aunt, again, the cousins, they told me, we should go to church camp, and there was kind of this, thing we just didn't talk about, we didn't say or anything, we just ignored it. Literally nobody asked me, nobody said how they felt. They just ignored it completely, which at the time was fine for me because I love church camp. I've had so much fun there. And I remember having fun at that church camp. My cousins and I, we played the game Snaps, which is like a game where you fool people and you say like, the name of the game is Snaps. Listen carefully, you know, and then you snap and you basically fool people into thinking you have like psychic powers. It's really funny. It was hilarious. We got the whole camp like freaking out that we were like magic, but they knew there was a secret. There's no one could figure it out. And one guy was like, okay, your secret word that you have to get her to guess is onomatopoeia. Good luck. And we did it, and they screamed, like literally ran out of the chapel screaming because they thought it was insane. And one night, they called it the Night of Healing. We did praise and worship, and then we did, the sermon or whatever. And then at the end, there's always a call to the altar. And if you're, a Christian, because at the end, the pastor comes back up and starts playing the music, and you're like, oh, it's coming. And he called to the altar like people who needed healing. And I was like, I feel good. I'm having a great time. This is not the one for me. Like, I don't need to go up there. I'm perfectly fine. And that's when my aunt came up to me, and like she is losing it, like bawling her eyes out. And she comes next to me and she holds my hand and she gives me a really big hug. And that's when she asked me if I want to go up there. And I told her, no, I think I'm good. And she said, I really would like for you to go up there. And again, I said no. And I started getting really emotional. And I started crying because I didn't want to go up there because I didn't feel hurt. Or I didn't feel like I needed to be healed. And she told me, she gave me a really big hug and said, like, I'm just praying for you and I don't want the devil to take you away from me. And I'm sorry. Everyone's in the comments like, oh my God, what's coming next? But that she really wanted me to come up and be healed. And I just stood there because I was not going to go up there. That's just not what I wanted. She didn't force me up there, which like I'm thankful for, because I think if I had been forced up there, I couldn't have fixed that relationship, which I am going to say, like, my aunt and I, like, we're like, no, I would say best friends, but like we go over all the time and, hang out with the family. They love Jonathan to death. But at that moment, that was a very, very hard place to be. And that was it for me. That was the day I decided that I was done. And I went to college that next year, and I basically didn't talk to anyone in my family for a couple of years. And, like in that time, my uncle died, which was really sad. I never got to like make peace or amends with him, which, like we could get into that discussion, but that is a regret that I have. Like, I wish I could have talked to him before he passed. And eventually, family was like, hey, we should get together. And I was like, okay, but I'm bringing my boyfriend, at the time, Jonathan. And that was when eventually reparations were made. And I love my family, and, they love me, and they love Jonathan. But that was kind of the end of my relationship with religion. There were so many things. Like, I even missed the part where, like, I was at one of my youth group things, at my hometown, and my pastor came up to me and said, like, I don't know why, but I feel compelled to tell you this. Like, God loves you. God loves you so much, and, just wants you to never stop thinking about him. Like, no matter what you do, just don't forget him. And that really spoke to me, because I had just come out, and I was like, oh, God is pushing me in the direction. He wants me to move closer to him. But then all of this, crud happened. And it's so hard, because, like, the people that you hold close and you put on this pedestal that you love so much, they hurt you so much. And coming back from that, I couldn't do it, and that's kind of where I am as an adult. Coming into my queerness, being an out and proud, fierce, flawless, fabulous human being. And I have seen religious organizations, and I know I haven't said this, but I do want to say this. I want to acknowledge the people in this chat who I know are religious or have a relationship with religion, and just say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your love and your support. I feel loved and seen by so many of you, and every time that happens, it's like a big hug. Thank you. And I truly think that, like, we could go in, I could keep talking for hours, but I don't have hours. I have like 30 more minutes. And I want to, keep talking. So, but I just want to say thank you, because I do know that there are, good people there. And I see someone making that comment about, like, religion is, like, literally ruined by, by man, like, by, people who don't get it. And, like, I think that that's the case. But I come into my adult life and, I'm trying to fix this relationship, but left and right, like, I'm seeing, anti gay organizations that with, religion on their sleeve. I say attacking because it's in, and I know it sounds aggressive, but that's how it sometimes feels, because it's so personal to who I am. Attacking me, my marriage, my husband, and even queer children, nowadays. And I relate to that. I feel that so much because I think about the child I was and the assumptions people made about me and the way people treated me and made me feel as a kid because I was a little effeminate, because I was a little different, and for that, I just haven't, that's where my story, I guess, with religion ends, is that I haven't been able to make that connection back. I don't know if there is an ending, but I think that's the ending. That's the statement, period. Oh, yeah. That's where I'm at now. Yeah, exactly. I just haven't had that. And I think I tell you all of this whole big story, just to say that,
the way people...
Thank you, JB. Are you coming over here? Sure, come over here.
The way people choose to practice certain things or represent themselves outspokenly does have an impact on personal lives, particularly us, but also people you might know or might not know that it's affecting in that moment. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean that's the case, and I think the thing that I wanted to say is that, like, I know so many people who are religious, who are phenomenal human beings, and I love people, but I still struggle with, I see someone saying, like, the word, the Bible, that kind of stuff. I still struggle with that. And so that's why I'm going to bring this back to kind of like the planner committee for a second. Like, that's why it's hard for me to purchase, I don't know, from a brand that has religion so deeply rooted into what they do and has, connections or ties with groups of people. Like, if you've seen Cindy's video, and if you don't, you're going to go watch Cindy's video and you're going to know. And it is really hard for me as a person to make that connection again, which is why I don't. And I will never judge any of you for choosing what you choose with, like, it's a planet, like, use what you're going to use. I just want you to know that for me, like, I just can't. It's just not for me. And that's the end of that. But I think that's why I wanted to come on here. It's just because I felt she's right there, y'all. Click it and go see it. But that's why I felt like this conversation was necessary. And I'm kicking myself in the foot, because there were some people in my DMs, like, that really wanted to have this conversation with me. And this just happened spur of the moment. When I saw all of this going, I was like, this is my chance. I need to come on and I need to put this out there in the world and tell the story, because it's so central to who I am as a person now. Like, it literally there's so many times where we'll just be talking and something will come up for me, like, and it'll either be like triggering in like a good way where I'm like, oh my God, that was such a great moment for me. Or it'll be triggering in the opposite way where like it's like really hurtful and all of a sudden I'm like crying, you know? But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. The final like kind of recollection that I really wanted to say is, and these are my written words again, is that religion and queerness is hard. The journey is long. It can be lonely because of the personal connection that each queer person has to make with religion as they are coming out and reconciling that. And in the end, who does that journey belong to? It belongs to queer people and queer people alone. And, you know, thank you guys so much for checking in. I managed to keep this under an hour, so I'm very proud of myself. Because I thought I was going to be here for like 2.5 hours or something and be like, oh my God, I got to go bowling at my queer bowling league, which is also really fun. But that's where we're at. And, you know, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for your love and support. I think that you are doing quite literally the Lord's work, and showing people that, you know, love is at the forefront of everything we do as people. Because that's how I live my life. And I'm saying a lot, I think just because, like, again, trying to cope. Are there any questions before we go? Julie, 100% down. Now, I'm a little salty because if we're in DC, I'm literally not going to have my ball and I'm not going to have my shoes because, like, we take this ish seriously. But not that we're, like, amazing bowlers. But, you know, we have our own ball and shoes. Are there any questions before we go? I did want to open up the floor. Again, like, what is this space? We know what it is, but if not, it's totally okay. I'm totally fine with that.
And just as a closing note from me, Danny can have the last word, but, you know, there are a lot of people in the community who also do find their way back to religion, and that's perfectly okay. And I think, like, when we talk about religion, and specifically Christianity in this moment, but like all religions as a whole, like there are groups of people out there who are reconciling like identity with religion. And so when we talk about it, I think it's important to note that like it's what those churches or like ministries or sects attune themselves to with like as political or faith-based values, because at the end of the day, sometimes it truly is about erasing people's identity and their lived experiences and demonizing people who already go through so much speculation under a public eye. And so, while, like, we're here talking about what Danny's gone through, it's like our experiences are completely different.
Yeah, he didn't really want to talk about his today, which is totally fine. But I will say, like, ours are very night and day experiences. I would say that, like, I'm speaking for him a little bit, but, like, I think he still considers himself a spiritual person, whereas I kind of don't to some extent. We sit here and talk and find things out about each other all the time when we talk about religion, just because of that. Which is really interesting. So I did see someone ask, we'll kind of go in order. So first, what would you say to the parents of queer kids, like stuff we may not think of? And I don't know, it's since we're on this topic of like just like queerness and religion, so I kind of want to tie it into like if you're a religious parent with a queer child, I think what I needed as a kid that I may or may not, I would probably say I didn't get, but my mom might argue differently, I don't know, is I needed someone who was going to become getting emotional again, I needed a fighter. I needed someone who was going to hear those hateful things and say, like, I needed them to tell me that those were that they weren't true, and I needed to hear them tell my parents, my family to shut up, because it's hard, you know? It's so hard. That happened really fast. It got very, very fast. But that's what I needed. Yeah, I needed a fighter, and unfortunately, whether you wanted it or not, like, you're there. You know, you had a child, and that child is queer. And so I tell people this all the time, like, you have the opportunity to create a relationship and like memories for your child that, like, when I was scared and when I needed them and when I was being vulnerable and sharing these things, like my mom was there for me. My parents were there for me. Or they're going to go off in 20 years. They're going to make a live called Out and Proud Religion, and they're going to tell everyone that, like, their family, you know, what they said. I'm not to scare you, but, like, you know, that's how it is. Like, and I think that that's what I would say. Do you have something to add? I'm going to go over here and, like, wipe the tears.
Recovering. Like, I guess I didn't go into my experience, but I think that like finding a place that reflects your own personal values would be really important. I grew up Catholic, so, like, there's not a lot of reconciling Catholic areas just because, you know, the Pope. And so I think going on a journey as, like, a family or feeling supported to go find an area that would accept us as children and then as a parent, or even if we, really, like, having parental support to go just experience different churches or areas that might be more supportive of, like, who we are.
Thank you, J-Babe. I really needed that. Okay, before I get to another question that kind of is a little deeper, we're going to go with this one. Llama Letter said, is your name on your bowling ball? Is your name's not on yours, right?
No.
Funny story is, my bowling ball I got from someone in the league that didn't want theirs anymore, because, you know, professional bowlers have like 1,000 balls. They literally bring like 8 with them. Why? I still don't know. And I've been bowling for what, 3 years now. So my name is not on my ball, but the guy who gave me the ball, his name is on my ball. And that's just a funny little thing. And so every time I bowl a strike, he's like, can I have that back? And I'm like, dude, it probably doesn't even fit like your hand anymore. So that's just really funny. So no, my name is not on my ball. I know, Rochelle, I'm trying to get up here because I wanted to say, right, I think you asked something about, like, do you think you'll ever reconcile your religion?
Do you ever think you go back to religion?
Yeah, like, go back, I guess is the word. And I think for me personally, I like, no, I guess would be the slow answer, like the short answer. I think for me, the one thing I have decided that other people have talked about on here is that I don't think I could ever see myself going back to church, because I think church and religion and, you know, spirituality are like 3 different things essentially, personally, and you don't always find them all in one place. And so I definitely don't think I can see myself going back to church. You know, whether that connection comes back, I think that's between me and you know, God. But I just think I've seen a lot of toxic things, and so for me, that's the problem. And I would agree with you, Penny Pincher Panna, but that's another topic for another time. In that regard. What about you? I mean, you know, I know you say you feel spiritual. I don't know. You don't have to answer. I feel like I caught off guard.
I mean, in college, I went through a phase where I went to a bunch of different denominations, like 4 or 5, to really experience what I wanted out of church. And I think while I am spiritual and, like, have faith in something bigger than myself, that really aligning it with an institution becomes difficult. I think I would do it for the community, to, like, find a community, but it would have to be, like, you know, we'd have to go research and, like, see what the community represents. But, like, as a whole, I think, like, faith and internally, like, yeah, I still hold on to it, but it's not, yeah. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
But who knows? Like,
yeah, you never know. I think after college, and like kind of in that reconciliation process with my family, we did go to an Easter Sunday sermon, and like I enjoyed it. Like, I love people, so like I love meeting people, talking to people, and I enjoyed the music because I'm a musician, so I enjoy music, and what is it, fellowship? Like, for me, that's everything. Like, I'm such an extrovert, and I feel so connected to people when we're talking and making connections. So, like, even then, that relationship is still there in so many different ways. It's just not the way that it used to be, which is, something I'm still reflecting on, I think. But yeah, I guess wrap up time. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for listening through my tears. I cried a lot more than I knew I was going to cry. There was just no way it wasn't going to happen.
You could have cried more.
I could have cried more, but I cried more than I thought I was going to. Thank you guys. Again, you guys are amazing. And you uplift me every day. And I know that you are love and you are light to so many people. So thank you for that. And also, you are fierce. You are flawless. You are fabulous. And I love you guys so much. I'm going to go bowl and find out some food. And I hope you guys do the same. Go bowl and find some food. Love you guys. Bye, everyone.